15th of February 1971. 50 years ago, countless shops, banks, schools, train networks and bus companies had a period of just 5 days to change an entire country's currency, from the so-called LSD system that had been in use in one form or another for over a millennium, to a new system, the decimal system. This day was known as Decimal Day. But what was the LSD system? What was this 1,000-year-old system we used prior to Decimal Day? Well, today I shall go through this old monetary system in its entirety. First of all, however, a quick recap for those who don't know the current decimal British money system. Let's have a quick rundown. The Great British Pound Sterling, or just the pound, is our current base unit. The pound is divided into 100 pence. Prices under £1 are written with a number of pence followed by a p, such as this. The coins currently in circulation are 1p, 2p, 5p, 10p, 20p, 50p, £1 and £2 coins. None of these have any fancy nicknames, although a pound can colloquially be referred to as a quid, from the Latin word for something, as in quid pro quo, something for something. The reason I'm going through all of this is because I need to draw a direct comparison between this system and the old system, and the easiest way to do that is to really strip the decimal system bare. And now, the old system. Firstly, the reason it's commonly referred to as LSD. This isn't as some veiled reference to hallucinogenic drugs, but instead comes again from the Romans. The Roman system used 3 units in their currency: liberi, solidi, and denarii. And through the course of history, these 3 units became the standard throughout Europe, and, thanks to colonialism, the rest of the world. Incidentally, liberi is also why the symbol of the pound is a stylized L, and also the reason the imperial weight unit, the pound, is abbreviated as LB. The pound was divided into 20 units called shillings, which each weighed 1/20th of a pound and were made of silver. The shilling was then itself further subdivided into 12 pence, which also weighed 1/12th of a shilling and were mostly made of bronze. This means that there are a total of 240 pence in a pound. There were several coins in circulation in the old system. The smallest unit of currency was the quarter penny, better known as the farthing. It was worth 1/4 of a penny. The next smallest unit was the halfpenny, usually called the halfpenny. It was, as the name implies, worth 1/2 of a penny. Then we have the regular penny, which we talked about earlier. And then the 3p bit, or the threepenny bit, worth 3 pence. You may be thinking that a 3p piece is an odd unit of currency, and it would be in a decimal system, as 3 doesn't go into 10 or 100. But remember, a shilling is worth 12 pence, so a threepenny bit fits in perfectly. Exactly 4 threepenny bits in a shilling. Next is the 6p piece, also known as sixpence, of Sing a Song of Sixpence fame. These are also sometimes called a tanner. Again, a coin worth 6p seems like an odd number in a decimal system, but makes perfect sense when you remember that 6p is exactly half of a shilling. Now, on to the silver coins. The first unit here is the shilling itself, which was sometimes called a bob in the same way we call a pound a quid. This was worth 12 pence, or 1/20th of a pound. There were a few ways to write a shilling. You could write it as 1s, or as 1/dash. The slash there actually used to be a stylized S, but over time evolved into the simple slash. The dash tells you that there are no pence, but you could also write 1/0. So 1.5 shillings, or a shilling and 6p, would be written as 1/6, and 1 shilling, 2p and a farthing would be written like this. Next up is the florin, which was worth 2 shillings. Notably, 1 florin was exactly 1/10th of a pound. The reason for this was actually as an early attempt at decimalisation, with mixed success, and now a slightly odd one. The half crown. The half crown was worth 2 and 6p, or 2.5 shillings. This is useful as it was also worth exactly 1/8th of a pound, and so exactly 30 pence. There was also the whole crown. The crown was worth 5 shillings, or 2 half crowns. 5 shillings is also exactly 1/4 of a 20 shilling pound, or 60 pence. Now for some gold coins. First is the half sovereign, worth £0.5 or 10 shillings. Not too much more to say here about this. Next is the big one, the £1 coin itself. Commonly, the coin was just called the sovereign, worth 20 shillings or 240 pence. As just one of these coins on its own weighed about 9 grams, most folk just used the more common pound notes to save on space. There was one coin worth just slightly more than the pound though. This was the guinea. Originating as the result of a messed up minting process for the pound coins, they were actually worth £1 and 1 shilling, or 21 shillings, or 252 pence. As they were technically worth slightly more than pounds, guineas were seen as fancier, and the rich tended to do trade and price fancy things in guineas rather than in pounds. This remains in some places to this day, notably in horse racing where prizes are still awarded in guineas, today worth £1 and 5 pence. Decimalisation was put into effect by maintaining the value of the pound and changing everything else around it. The shilling became the modern 5 pence, and the florin became the modern 10 pence. Some old coins, such as the crown, now worth 25 pence, are still technically in circulation, albeit very rare and mostly commemorative. The younger generation adapted quickly to the new system, but the older generation took a while to get used to the decimal system, leading to a number of educational programmes on the BBC, and the wide publicity campaign to raise awareness of how the new system was going to work. Overall, decimalisation was seen as a smooth transition and a success in the UK, and in Ireland, which decimalised its own currency alongside the UK. And now the new system is ubiquitous in British culture. Ireland, however, would go on to adopt the euro in 2002.